Okay, so I'm going to do a video showing my sump setup. It's a 30-gallon DIY sump that handles a 70-gallon and a 55-gallon. Okay, so like with many of you, I use PVC overflows, gravity driven, no need to drill glass. I have two 1-inch. This one, as you can see, acts as a skimmer. And then the other one, I'm down about 6 inches below the surface of the water to grab floating debris. Now, the only dangerous thing about this is if we have a power outage of the pump, it'll keep draining all the way down to the top of that. But to rectify that, it's a very simple solution. You put a little notch or a couple of little holes in the standpipe just below the surface. So then when the water hits that, it breaks the suction and that stops draining. So that works really well. And if you can see behind the tank, they both run into a union. They each have their own union. Out of the way, Mr. Oscar. And then they tee into 1.5 inches back behind the tank is the other union. Okay, so then that drains down into here, which is this pipe right here. Comes to a shut-off when I do water changes and etc. And here's the flow right here. So I just have that go into a piece of, filament stuff. And 2 pieces of egg crate just to keep it nice and flat and no gaps along the edges so debris can't get by. Into bioball chamber. I had this aerated at one time, which really didn't provide any motion, but it provided air. But at the same time, it, for some reason, the air would build up under this filament once it got a little bit dirty, and that caused a problem because then my water level would rise and all kinds of issues. So I'm going to figure out a way to get these bioballs moving. I think it'll help a great deal. So from there I have another block of foam just to catch any last debris up through this overflow chamber, which falls into the Refugium area. Nothing live in here now. I used to have a blue crayfish, but he ate my plants, so I took him out of here. Catfish are cool to put in here. Plecos cool to put in here just to keep that brown algae under control, but right now mine has nothing but plants. This is where I have my heater, small air stone, small pump, just for the sake of the plants. And gravel, which, if I didn't have plants, I wouldn't have it in there, but it serves its purpose. So then the water flows back through another pre-filter just to catch any plant debris, as you can see. And then in here, this chamber, I have charcoal bag, which I change often, another pre-filter, and then the water flows into this pump side, which I have a thermometer, and then another bag of charcoal, which is kind of useless there because not much flow really forced through it, but it's still soaking in the water anyway. So then it goes into pump, which I believe is I want to say 900 gallons per hour, which goes into 3/4 inch PVC unioned into a main shutoff, and then you'll see I tee off into 2 other shutoffs. That red one down there is for the tank we were just looking at, and that black one back there goes to the 55-gallon. So this one sump is feeding both tanks. And as you can see, in addition to the drain from the tank we're looking at, here's another drain with another shutoff, which also goes back to the 55. So if we scoot out here and look over here, there's the 55, and it also has 2 overflows, in this case 3/4 overflows. And for this tank I had to put little grates on my overflows for 2 reasons. One, for the food, because feeding them with 2 overflows that are skimmers, if you don't shut your overflow off, all the food goes straight into the overflow. And the other reason is small fish. We don't want them to get sucked up in there. Right now I don't have any small enough. Well, the jewel cichlids, I guess, could get sucked in there, but... So then the return line is the last thing. Pretty simple. Just comes up straight and then over the top of the tank, and then I tee it off. Point one down, point one up. I like to arrange my circ fans too, to kind of give a little surface agitation, as well as control the food flow. So even though in this tank I have that skimmer up there, I feed them on this side of the tank and the food stays on this side of the tank because of that fan pointing up. And my second fan points down, which keeps all the debris moving up in a nice big circle and into my overflows as it should, which gives me a nice crystal clear tank. One other thing I'll attribute to my clean tanks is no substrate. I say that in almost all of my videos because I can't stand it. I know some fish like it. This Oscar over here, for example, he moves everything, as you can see. Everything in his tank is in one end of his tank. No matter where I put it, he'll move it all. So if he had gravel in here, he would spend all day just shoveling the crap around, and yeah, nothing but a headache. But the biggest reason I don't use it is it holds debris. I understand, yes, it holds good debris as well, and bacteria and all that fun stuff, but if you have a proper filtration, you don't have to rely on gravel for that. So, and there's the 55, also crystal clear. So that's it. That's my sump setup. Oh, well, one more thing I'll show you. On the overflows, it has a safety feature and kind of a startup thing, I guess. Because they're gravity driven, the siphon is really easy to break. A little bit of air gets in this hose and builds up in here. As you've probably seen in other videos if you've researched this, the siphon will break. So the best solution is this little pump that they sell. It's an actual water or air pump. Very, very small, but doesn't pump much at all. You can see it's trickling. It trickles very little water and air. So what this pump is doing is just sucking any air bubbles out of here that get trapped. It'll suck water too, but that's fine because it goes right back into the tank. And you put a check valve on there just to make sure there's no backflow. One thing with these check valves is that probably after about 3 or 4 months you should change them because they can get clogged, and if they get clogged that could cause you major problems. The other thing is if you can't find a fitting with some kind of breather or valve on the corner of it like this, you have to fabricate your own with a whole shitload of silicone and rubber tube. Works great. Not the prettiest thing, but it works. So in my case I have only the pump on the surface overflow because the other one doesn't need it, in my opinion, because if that overflow breaks, that one's going to break. So I don't have to worry about one going or both. They're both going to go every time. I've never had any disaster yet, and I've been running the system for almost a year probably. Power outages are fine. My sump holds just that amount of water till it gets to that slit over there that I showed you that kills the suction. And then the other issue that I have is my return also can backflow. So in this case I also have a tiny hole in the back of that you can't see, so that when the water drops to that it just breaks the suction. On this tank, on the return, I opted to put a check valve. Can't say it was worth it. I mean, it costs probably $10, and I think the same thing can be accomplished just with a little pinhole in the back of the T. So it's kind of a useless apparatus, but it's there anyway. In that case, it was experimental. So there you go. There's my setup. Total water, I guess, is 70, 55, and 30, so 155 gallons. Well, that's not quite filled, so let's call it 20. So 145 gallons total. And quick review of fish for those who haven't seen my other videos. My Oscar is 8-9 years old. He's got a collapsed eye, not that one, the other eye. And that weird wart thing on the bottom of his chin is from digging the hell out of rocks and stuff. Red Devil, he's not even a year old. Probably half the size of Oscar already, so he's going to be a big boy. And then Blue Jahani back there. Good company for Oscar, and pretty big pleco. He's probably about 8 inches long, head to toe. So that's what's in my 70. And then in the 55 I have another pleco. He's only about 6 inches. And then 2 bumblebee cichlids. Green Terror. Had 2, but 1 passed away, unfortunately. Blue Severum. He's about 5-6 years old. Love him. Such a docile fish. He's so beautiful. And there's 2 jewel cichlids in here. There's one of them. The other one hides out, oddly enough, under here with the blue lobster. But you probably can't see him. Yeah, let's see his claw back there under the rocks. He just helps keep the debris out of the tank. And that's it. That's one of my systems. Thanks for watching.